Mysterious discovery. It's a quiet night on the outskirts of town. Officer Daniel Harper and his partner, Officer Lisa Ramirez, are patrolling a desolate stretch of highway when their headlights catch a glimpse of movement. A young girl, no older than 10, is stumbling along the side of the road. She is barefoot, her clothes are torn and dirty, and her arms are wrapped around herself as if trying to hold in the last bit of warmth. The moment she spots the patrol car slowing down, she freezes like a deer caught in headlights. Harper steps out cautiously, his voice calm. "Hey there, sweetheart. Are you okay?" The girl doesn't answer. Instead, she takes a step back, her wide, terrified eyes darting toward the dark forest behind her. Ramirez radios in for assistance while Harper kneels to her level. "You're safe now. We just want to help." Slowly, the girl lets him approach. When he sees the bruises on her arms and the dried blood on her scraped knees, his stomach tightens. Something terrible has happened to this child. And whoever she's running from might still be out there. Temporary safety. The officers carefully escort the girl into the back seat of the patrol car. She doesn't resist but remains silent, her small hands clenched into fists. As they drive back to the station, Officer Harper watches her in the rearview mirror. "You don't have to talk, but if you're hungry, we've got some snacks at the station," he says gently. She doesn't respond, just stares out the window, her expression unreadable. At the station, the girl is given a blanket and a warm cup of cocoa. Officer Ramirez kneels beside her. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you." For a moment, the girl's grip on the cup tightens, as if she wants to believe it. A social worker arrives, ready to assess her condition, while detectives start making calls to missing persons units. Who is she? Where did she come from? And more importantly, who was she running from? Years. The next morning, as the girl sits quietly in a corner of the station, a frantic looking couple arrives. The woman, with tear streaked cheeks, clutches a photograph in her hands. "That's her! That's our daughter!" she cries. The man beside her nods urgently, his voice trembling. "We've been searching for her for days. Thank God you found her." He hands over documents, birth certificate, medical records, even a family photo with the girl smiling between them. Officer Harper watches the girl's reaction. She doesn't run to them. She doesn't speak. She just grips her cocoa cup tightly, her knuckles white. Ramirez kneels beside her, whispering, "Do you know them, sweetie?" The girl looks up at the couple. Her lips part slightly, but no words come out. Instead, she lowers her gaze, nodding ever so faintly. It's enough to convince most of the officers in the room. But for Harper, something about this doesn't feel right. As the officers review the documents, everything seems legitimate. The couple's IDs check out, and the paperwork matches the girl's age and appearance. On the surface, it looks like a clear case of a lost child reunited with her parents. But something gnaws at Officer Harper. He notices the way the girl sits, rigid, tense, as if trying to shrink into herself. She hasn't spoken a word, not even when the woman, supposedly her mother, sobbed and tried to hug her. When the couple steps aside to speak with the social worker, Harper leans toward Ramirez. "Something's off. She didn't react the way you'd expect a missing child to." Ramirez hesitates. "She's probably just traumatized. If this really is her family, she's been through a lot." Harper isn't convinced. Maybe, or maybe she's scared of them. As the officers prepare the final paperwork to release the girl, Harper makes a quiet decision. He's going to double check this family's story before it's too late. Convincing lies. The couple sits across from Officer Harper and Ramirez, their hands clasped tightly. The woman sniffles, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "She's been through so much," she says, her voice shaking. She hasn't spoken since the accident." Harper narrows his eyes. "Accident?" The man nods. "A car crash. A drunk driver hit us months ago. She was in the back seat. She wasn't physically hurt, but ever since then, she just stopped talking. The doctors called it selective mutism." He slides a folded letter across the table. "Her therapist wrote this. It explains everything." Harper scans the letter. It's detailed, official looking, signed by a licensed psychologist. Everything checks out. Still, his gut tells him something's wrong. He glances at the girl, who sits with her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the floor. Ramirez exhales, rubbing her temples. "Look, Harper, we don't have any reason to hold her. Their story makes sense. The documents are real." Harper, every instinct tells him not to let the girl leave. But with no solid reason to keep her in custody, he's running out of time. Pressure to release. The police chief steps into the room, arms crossed. Harper, what's the holdup? Harper straightens. Something doesn't feel right. The girl isn't reacting the way a lost child should. I want more time to verify their story. The chief sighs. We have no evidence of wrongdoing. Their documents check out, and if she really has selective mutism, her behavior makes sense. We can't hold her without cause. Ramirez, trying to be diplomatic, adds, we could call the therapist listed on the letter just to confirm. But the man interrupts, frustration creeping into his voice. We've already been through so much. Can't you see how scared she is? She needs to come home, to be with family. You're making this harder than it has to be. The woman sniffles again, giving the girl a pleading look. Sweetheart, let's go home. Mommy and Daddy are here now. The girl doesn't speak, doesn't move. But when the woman reaches for her hand, she doesn't resist. Harper clenches his jaw. Everything inside him is screaming that this is wrong. But with no proof, his hands are tied. The chief nods. Release her. Harper watches, helpless, as the couple leads the girl out of the station. Vanished again. Hours after the girl leaves with the couple, Harper still can't shake the uneasy feeling in his gut. He stares at his computer screen, scrolling through missing child reports, but nothing matches. Then Ramirez rushes into the office, her face pale. Harper, you need to see this. She holds up a new report, a child abduction case from a neighboring town. A girl, same age, similar features, missing for weeks. The parents in the report aren't the couple who picked her up. Harper's stomach drops. We need to find her. Now. They race to track the couple down, but it's too late. Their address is fake. Their phone numbers are disconnected. They vanished. Harper slams his fist on the desk. They had her. They had her right there, and they go. Internal conflict. As Officer Turner continues to monitor the situation, he feels a growing sense of guilt and frustration. He wants to protect the girl, but there's a lack of solid evidence to justify keeping her away from her family. He's haunted by his instincts, telling him that something is seriously wrong, but the lack of legal grounds to act weighs heavily on him. Doubts about the family. Despite the family's seemingly respectable exterior, Turner begins to notice small inconsistencies. The mother's overly protective behavior seems more like control than concern, and the father's calm demeanor hides a sense of manipulation. The more he observes, the more he suspects the family might be hiding something dark. Emotional toll. Turner's work begins to take a toll on him personally. His mind constantly returns to the girl and the gut feeling that she's not telling the truth because of her family's pressure. He questions his own ability to protect her without overstepping his boundaries. His relationship with his wife, Maggie, grows strained as he brings his work home and becomes distant. Maggie's support. Maggie, sensing the emotional weight Turner is carrying, offers him the calm perspective he needs. She reminds him that his role as a protector doesn't always involve immediate action. Sometimes it's about patiently waiting for the right moment and trusting the process. Turner reaches a breaking point when he overhears a conversation between the girl and her mother during a visit. The mother speaks to the girl in a way that sounds more like manipulation than concern, confirming Turner's fears that the family is not just trying to protect their daughter, but control her. Decision to investigate. He makes the decision to secretly investigate further, contacting Detective Harris for help. Though he still has no hard evidence, Turner's instincts tell him that the girl's life is at risk, and he can't ignore it any longer. Family's dark secret. The unveiling of the truth. Officer Turner, driven by his suspicions, intensifies his investigation. He and Detective Harris begin to gather covert evidence. After a series of surveillance operations and interviews with people connected to the family, they discover the horrifying truth. The girl's family is involved in a trafficking ring. The girl was being groomed for exploitation, her parents using their outwardly respectable image to cover up their illegal activities. The breakthrough. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place when a trusted informant reveals that the family has been moving young girls for years, manipulating both the victims and their community to protect their operations. This confirmation shakes Officer Turner to his core. He now knows that if he doesn't act, the girl will continue to be under the family's harmful control. With the evidence in hand, Officer Turner, along with Detective Harris, prepares to confront the family. They plan a surprise visit to the house. The family, particularly the father, is caught off guard. As Turner approaches the home, his tension builds. The father tries to spin a story about how the police are overreacting and how everything at home is fine, but Turner is resolute, determined to save the girl. The girl's struggle. During the confrontation, the girl's internal conflict becomes apparent. She is terrified of what will happen to her family if she speaks out, yet she knows the truth is too dangerous to ignore. The manipulative tactics her parents used on her are no longer enough to keep her silent. In a heartbreaking moment, the girl finally confesses, revealing that her parents had been planning to send her to a dangerous place, masked as a new opportunity. The tense standoff. A tense standoff ensues, with the father trying to use his influence over the girl to get her to retract her confession. However, Officer Turner, now fully aware of the danger, steps in. With his authoritative but compassionate approach, he manages to protect the girl from further manipulation. As the parents realize their control is slipping, they become desperate and defensive, but the evidence against them is overwhelming. The arrests. Police backup arrives, and the family is arrested for their involvement in the trafficking ring. The girl is taken into protective custody, and the entire operation that had been hidden under the guise of a perfect family begins to unravel. Resolution. The girl's new path. Aftermath and reflection. In the wake of the family's arrest, the girl is placed into a safe house under protective custody. While the legal process begins to unfold, the girl's future remains uncertain. Officer Turner, now deeply invested in her well-being, wonders what will happen to her next. Will she heal from the trauma, or will the scars of her past forever haunt her? The girl's reaction. At first, the girl is overwhelmed by the change. She had spent years under her parents' control and manipulation, and the sudden shift into a safe environment feels foreign and unsettling. However, she begins to understand that she is now free to make choices for herself, a concept that had been taken from her for so long. Slowly, she starts to regain her confidence and her voice, learning to trust others again. Officer Turner's burden. Despite the success of the operation, Officer Turner is left with lingering doubts. Did he do enough? Could he have acted sooner? His thoughts are clouded with the weight of his choices and the lives affected by the case. He speaks with his wife, Maggie, about the emotional toll the case has taken on him. He admits that his job isn't just about solving cases, it's about the personal cost of each decision and the emotional toll it takes on everyone involved. Maggie's support. Maggie, with her usual quiet wisdom, reminds Turner that even though the emotional cost is high, their work is essential. She encourages him to focus on the positives, how they've made a real difference in the girl's life. Maggie also speaks about the importance of their family and how their love for each other is a grounding force in Turner's turbulent world. The girl's new opportunity. As the case progresses, the girl is offered a chance at a new life. She is placed in a rehabilitation program where she can recover, receive counseling, and eventually be connected with a foster family. Though the road to recovery will be long and challenging, she now has hope for a future free of fear and manipulation. A moment of peace. The story closes with Officer Turner walking home after a long day, reflecting on the emotional journey. He looks up at the sky, a sense of peace beginning to settle in. As he steps through the door of his home, Maggie greets him with open arms, offering him the comfort of her presence and the promise of a better tomorrow. Closing scene. In a quiet, hopeful moment, Officer Turner sits down with Maggie, reflecting on their life together. He realizes that while he may never be able to save everyone, he made a difference in one life, one girl who now has the chance to rebuild her future. The scene fades to black as Turner, with a renewed sense of purpose, looks forward to continuing his work, knowing that love and justice are still worth fighting for. This resolution brings the story full circle, with Officer Turner reflecting on his journey and the impact of his work. It also focuses on the girl's new beginning, providing a sense of closure while hinting at the challenges of healing. The emotional resolution underscores the theme of justice, sacrifice, and the strength of personal relationships, particularly the one between Turner and his wife, Maggie.